You think luck is your ally. You think when fortune smiles, the world finally bends in your favor. You wait for chance, for timing, for the universe to notice you. But luck is not a gift. It's a storm. It strikes without warning. It lifts one man, only to drown another. And most are swept away, believing it was destiny. The average man kneels to luck. He praises it when it serves him, curses it when it betrays him. He is a slave to fortune's moods. But the strategist, the Machiavellian mind, sees deeper. He knows Fortuna is wild, untamed, and merciless. She does not reward the weak. She devours them. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a raging river. When it floods, it destroys everything in its path. But the wise man builds dams, redirects currents, controls what others fear. So I ask you, will you drift like the helpless, waiting for luck to either crown you or crush you? Or will you seize her by the hair, bend her chaos to your will, and make fortune your servant, not your master? Because those who wait are destroyed, and those who control rule. Niccolo Machiavelli was not a dreamer. He was not a preacher of comfort. He was a surgeon of reality, cutting away illusions to expose the raw anatomy of power. When princes and kings stumbled, when republics collapsed, when men blamed the stars for their downfall, Machiavelli whispered the truth. It was not the stars that failed you. It was you who failed to master Fortuna. Most people, ordinary people, live as prisoners of chance. They win a little, they lose a little, and they believe this dance is life. They call it fate, destiny, divine will. They believe power is about being liked, being moral, being lucky. And this is why most people remain powerless, because they confuse survival with control. But you are here because you sense something darker. You understand that beneath every throne, behind every fortune, inside every victory, lies the hidden hand of Fortuna, and the ruthless few who knew how to chain her for just long enough. This is why Machiavelli matters. He decoded the patterns that most are too afraid to see. He saw men rise not by chance, but by preparation. He saw princes fall not because of bad fortune, but because of weak strategy. Now, your transformation begins. From ordinary to untouchable, from victim to strategist, from being tossed by Fortuna's waves to steering them with cold precision. This is not motivation. This is initiation into laws that the masses cannot bear to hear, but which the masters live by. But before we continue, you must prove you are not like the rest. Type this in the comments right now. I refuse to be ruled by luck. Say it, write it, declare it, because the moment you affirm it, you step outside the crowd. You separate yourself from the naive herd. Now listen closely. Machiavelli once warned, "Fortune is like a woman. She favors the bold, but destroys the hesitant. If you do not master her, she will master you. And in the next chapter, you will learn the first law to control Fortuna before she destroys you." The first law: build dams before the flood. Most people live as if the world is stable. They believe tomorrow will resemble today. They mistake calm weather for permanent safety. They spend, they waste, they procrastinate, as if Fortuna will always smile upon them. But when the storm comes, the market crash, the betrayal, the sudden collapse, they are swept away like insects in a flood. Machiavelli warned us, fortune is like a river. When the water is calm, anyone can cross. But when it swells, it wipes out cities, kingdoms, and lives in an instant. The naive wait for disaster to strike. The strategist builds dams when the skies are clear. Think of the generals who stockpiled grain before war. while their rivals feasted in peace. Think of the entrepreneurs who prepared cash reserves before the crisis, while others lived in luxury. Think of the man who strengthens his body, sharpens his mind, builds his alliances, before the collapse makes these things impossible. They understood you cannot stop the river, but you can channel it. This is your first law of Fortuna. Prepare in times of calm for the violence of chaos. Here's how you apply it. Predict cycles. Observe where instability hides, in finances, relationships, politics. Ask yourself, if everything collapsed tomorrow, what would remain under my control? Build reserves, money, influence, knowledge, alliances. These are your dams. When the flood comes, they hold. Train for pain. If you can suffer deliberately, Fortuna cannot surprise you. The one who rehearses discomfort becomes immune to her shocks. Remember, when others panic, the prepared appear godlike. The flood that drowns the herd becomes the weapon of the strategist. That is the hidden advantage. Fortuna exposes the weak, but elevates the strong. Write this down and type it in the comments as your first affirmation. I prepare while others sleep. That is the mindset of the Machiavellian thinker. That is how you begin to bend Fortuna to your will. And once you have built your dams, once you stand unshaken in the storm, the next law becomes possible. Learning how to seize Fortuna at her most vulnerable. When she hesitates, the second law, strike. When Fortuna hesitates, preparation makes you stable. But stability alone does not bring victory. You could build your dams, gather your resources, strengthen your mind, and yet still remain stagnant, safe, but powerless. Because Fortuna does not reward the cautious. She tests them, then abandons them. Machiavelli knew, fortune favors the bold. The common man waits. He waits for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, the perfect guarantee. He fears risk like a child fears the dark. And so, he hesitates. Years pass, opportunities vanish. The door opens, but because he trembles, it slams shut before he moves. Now contrast him with the strategist. He studies the currents of Fortuna, and when he sees hesitation, when she shifts, when the crowd is paralyzed, when fear grips the majority, he strikes. He does not wait for certainty. He creates certainty through action. Consider the military commander who advances while his enemies argue. Consider the investor who buys when everyone else is panicking. Consider the man who seizes power in the very moment others retreat. These are not gambles. These are calculated strikes at the exact moment Fortuna hesitates, when she is unguarded. Your application is clear. Move against the crowd. When they are afraid, you advance. When they are reckless, you retreat. Spot hesitation. Look for moments when others delay, opportunities, promotions, alliances. Take what they fear to claim. Act decisively. Do not half move. Fortuna punishes hesitation with the same cruelty as failure. This law is brutal, but it is true. Hesitation kills. Action crowns. Now write this into your mind and into the comments below. I strike when others freeze. Say it, declare it, because this is the identity you are forging. Not a timid observer, but a force of movement, a hunter of hesitation. The dams protect you from destruction. The steer. Ike seizes power from paralysis. But there is still a higher mastery of Fortuna, something far more ruthless. The next law will reveal how to manipulate not just luck, but the very perception of it, turning chance itself into your mask of inevitability. The third law, control the illusion of luck. There is a secret more dangerous than preparation, more dangerous than timing. It is the ability to control not just Fortuna, but the illusion of Fortuna. Because power is not only about what you achieve, but about what others believe about your achievements. The masses worship luck. When someone rises, they whisper, "He's lucky." When someone falls, they sigh, It wasn't meant to be. This language is poison. It blinds them to the truth. Fortune bends for those who prepare and strike. But here is the Machiavellian twist. If they believe you are favored by luck, you gain a power that is almost supernatural. Think of Caesar crossing the Rubicon. His soldiers whispered that fortune walked with him, that the gods themselves bent the dice in his favor. Was it luck? No. It was preparation, calculation, timing. But by allowing the illusion of divine fortune to grow, Caesar created unshakable loyalty. Men fight harder for the one they believe destiny protects. Or think of the modern entrepreneur who launches a product at the perfect moment. Outsiders call it luck, but insiders know it was meticulous research and ruthless execution. Yet the illusion of luck gives him a halo of inevitability. Competitors retreat, followers gather, allies seek him out. This is your third law of Fortuna. Manufacture the myth of luck. Here is how you apply it. Hide the struggle. Let people see the results, not the sleepless nights. Frame success as destiny. Speak as if your wins were inevitable, as if Fortuna herself walks beside you. Let others spread the myth. Never brag. Let whispers of your good fortune circulate. It becomes your shield and your sword. Because when others believe you are touched by Fortuna, resistance weakens. They no longer compete. They surrender. Now, anchor this in your mind and in the comments. I create my own luck, say I. Write it. Live it. Because the truth is this: Fortuna may be unpredictable, but perception is controllable. And the one who controls perception controls power itself. But this is not enough. You cannot just appear lucky. You must also learn how to weaponize misfortune, turning setbacks into traps for others. That is the next law. The fourth law: weaponize misfortune. Most men see misfortune as an end, a failed deal, a public humiliation, a sudden loss. To them it is final, a scar that marks them weak. They lament, they hide, they shrink. They treat misfortune like poison and hope it will never touch them again. This is the naive's response. Machiavelli taught a harsher, cleaner lesson. Misfortune is raw material. It is not only pain, it is information, camouflage, and leverage. The prince who survives public scandal by confessing nothing and acting steadily converts shame into sympathy, suspicion into support, collapse into comeback. The strategist doesn't flee misfortune. He mines it. He turns it into a trap for rivals, a test for allies, and a signal to the world that he will not be broken. Imagine a merchant whose shipment is burned. The weak cry, ruin, and close shop. The Machiavellian owner declares restructuring, shifts markets, surfaces new alliances, and suddenly competitors are exposed. They relied on steadier supply lines. They panic, their prices spike. The merchant who suffered the loss now returns leaner and more ruthless. And the market has been cleansed for him. Misfortune became advantage. This is your fourth law of Fortuna. Turn setbacks into instruments of advantage. How you do it? Recast the narrative. Publicly reframe the setback as intentional austerity, as a purging of weakness, as the prelude to a stronger rise. Control the language before others do. Test loyalty. Use crisis to separate true allies from fair-weather friends. Those who stay are worth far more than the comfort of many. Create scarcity and necessity. A loss can justify new terms, new demands, new power. Let the world accept your new price. Deploy surprise. When everyone expects retreat, return with an unexpected move, an alliance, a product, a revelation. Shock rewrites memory. Machiavelli said, in effect, misfortune is a furnace that tempers the iron of power, but only if you do not let it consume you. You must be the smith who feeds the fire with intent. Now drop this affirmation into the comments to harden your resolve. I turn my wounds into weapons. Say it, claim it, because once you can weaponize misfortune, Fortuna's blows no longer define you, they refine you. The fifth law, control the frame, narrative domination. Fortuna plays with events, but men interpret those events through stories. The same misfortune can be seen as tragedy or transformation. The same victory can be seen as earned or stolen. And here lies the deeper truth. He who controls the frame controls Fortuna itself. Most people surrender their narrative. They let others define them. They allow gossip, public opinion, and rival voices to dictate what their fortune means. They say, I hope people see my intent. I hope they understand my struggle. But hoping is begging. Fortuna punishes beggars. The strategist knows better. He seizes the frame. He dictates the interpretation of events before anyone else can. If a deal collapses, he announces it as strategic redirection. If rivals gain ground, he frames it as distraction while he prepares something greater. If he rises, he calls it destiny. And because the herd craves certainty, they adopt his story. Soon, they repeat his words as if they were their own conclusions. Think of great leaders who lost battles but claimed strategic withdrawals. History remembers their phrasing, not the facts. Think of business titans who called failures pivots. Think of rulers who framed betrayals as divine tests, making followers more loyal after loss than before. This is not deception for vanity. It is survival. Without narrative control, Fortuna's blows shatter reputation. With it, even defeat can be converted into legend. Here is how you apply the fifth law. Be first to name events. The first interpretation always anchors perception. Speak in triads. Use commanding clusters of 3 words. Decisive, rhythmic, final, e.g., not failure, evolution, destiny. Repeat relentlessly. A frame dies if it is not reinforced. Say it until the world cannot say otherwise. Erase alternatives. Dismiss rival narratives as childish, as hysterical or irrelevant. Never allow them equal weight. Machiavelli observed, perception is more powerful than truth because men believe what is useful to believe. Control the story, and you no longer need to fear Fortuna's randomness, for you script what it means. Now declare this in the comments. I control the story before the story controls me. This affirmation binds you to the strategist's discipline, because once you own the frame, you own the stage. Next, we move deeper, beyond narrative control, into a higher Machiavellian weapon, commanding fear and respect through calculated unpredictability. The sixth law, harness unpredictability as power. Fortuna thrives on chaos. She is the storm that no one predicts, the earthquake that splits the ground beneath men's feet. And here is the paradox. Most people spend their lives trying to be predictable, trying to appear safe, reliable, consistent. They think predictability breeds trust, but in the realm of power, predictability breeds weakness. Machiavelli saw it clearly. When a prince is too consistent, his enemies learn his rhythm. They anticipate his moves. They strike before he does. Predictability is a pattern, and patterns can be broken. But unpredictability is armor. It is fire. It is fear. Consider the ruler who suddenly pardons when vengeance is expected, and then suddenly punishes when mercy is assumed. His enemies cannot read him. His allies tread carefully. Fortuna herself appears to move with him, as if he is guided by forces beyond reason. Think of modern leaders, investors, or strategists who make unexpected moves. Buying when everyone predicts selling, retreating when they seem poised to strike, striking when the world thinks they have retreated. Each unpredictable move reshapes the field. This is your sixth law of Fortuna. Make unpredictability your weapon. Application. Break rhythm intentionally. Do not always respond. Do not always strike. Sometimes remain silent. Sometimes act swiftly. Keep them guessing. Seed false patterns. Let rivals think they understand your moves, then shatter their assumptions at the decisive moment. Cultivate mystique. Allow whispers to grow. No one knows what he will do next. That uncertainty gives you power without action. Anchor unpredictability with strength. Randomness without control is weakness, but controlled unpredictability creates awe. Machiavelli once compared fortune to a woman who submits only to those who strike boldly. But boldly, as when coupled with unpredictability, makes you untouchable, because no enemy can prepare for a strike they cannot see. Now claim this with your voice and in the comments. I am predictable to none, inevitable to all. That is how Fortuna begins to serve you. Not because you master chaos, but because you become chaos itself. Disciplined, directed, devastating. In the next law, we escalate further, not just surviving or confusing Fortuna, but commanding respect so deeply that Fortuna seems to bend to your presence. The seventh law. Command respect as a shield against Fortuna. Fortuna strikes hardest against the weak, the exposed, the ones no one fears losing. Misfortune humiliates them because they already lack weight in the eyes of others. But the man who commands respect, who radiates presence, who makes others tremble before his silence, he carries an invisible shield. Even when Fortuna lashes out, the world interprets his fall differently. They do not see weakness. They see trial. They see destiny testing him. Respect transforms misfortune into myth. Machiavelli knew this truth. It is better to be feared than loved, because fear stabilizes respect when fortune wavers. Love drifts with the winds of Fortuna. Fear anchors loyalty even when the winds rage. Respect, whether born of fear, awe, or authority, reshapes the meaning of every event around you. Think of leaders toppled by scandal who disappeared because no one respected them to begin with. Now think of those who survived greater disasters, yet emerged revered because their aura demanded interpretation beyond ordinary luck. Their respect shielded them. Their image redefined the narrative. This is your seventh law of Fortuna. Command respect so deeply that fortune bows to your presence. Here is how you build it. Non-reactive posture. Never flinch publicly. Even if misfortune burns, let no one see your panic. Calculated ruthlessness. Enforce consequences swiftly, selectively, without hesitation. People respect boundaries that cut. Cultivate silence. Speak less, but with precision. Let your words feel heavy, chosen, rare. Silence builds weight. Symbolic authority. Appear larger than life through dress, environment, alliances, or ritual. Symbols anchor respect faster than explanations. When Fortuna strikes a respected figure, people rationalize the blow as part of a greater design. When she strikes a nobody, it is just destruction. This is why you must build respect before chaos comes. Respect bends perception. It makes Fortuna look like your servant rather than your master. Now engrave this into your identity and write it in the comments. My presence bends fortune itself. Claim it, because once respect surrounds you like armor, even chaos feels orchestrated. And yet, there is one law beyond respect, a final mastery. The power to not just resist Fortuna, not just command perception, but to turn yourself into the constant in a world of chance. The final law. Become the master of Fortuna. All the laws have led to this moment. Preparation built your defenses. Striking at hesitation gave you victories. The illusion of luck crowned you untouchable. Misfortune became your forge. Narrative became your weapon. Unpredictability became your aura. Respect became your shield. But there is one final law, the highest, the most ruthless, the most liberating. The final law is this: you must become Fortuna herself. Most men chase luck. Some resist it. A few manipulate its image. But the master ceases to chase or resist. He transforms himself into the constant around which fortune revolves. Others call it chance. He calls it inevitability. Others say he is lucky. He says, I bend the world to my will. When you embody Fortuna, the illusion ends. You no longer fear the storm, because you are the storm. Machiavelli hinted at this mastery. Fortune, like a river, overwhelms the unprepared, but yields to those who channel it. To become Fortuna is to channel chaos so completely that people no longer distinguish between your will and destiny. They begin to believe your presence alone shapes outcomes, and when they believe it, it becomes true. Practical mastery. Fuse preparation and boldness. Do not just prepare for cycles or strike in hesitation. Weave both into your rhythm until others see no separation between your planning and your action. Erase the line between chance and control. If you win, declare it inevitable. If you lose, declare it a step in design. Your narrative makes you the architect of all outcomes. Live as if chosen. Carry yourself with inevitability, with composure that signals certainty in chaos. People will mirror your conviction. This is the binary choice before you. Remain weak, tossed by luck like every other forgotten soul, or become the master, untouchable, unshaken, unavoidable. Now engrave this inner affirmation into your mind and declare it in the comments. I am the master of Fortuna. Like this video if you are stepping into mastery. Comment to affirm your transformation. Share this with someone trapped in weakness. And subscribe, because this is only the beginning of your secret initiation into hidden power. Remember this: the weak react, the strong respond. But the masters, they make Fortuna respond to them.